Okay, shh. So, at last, we're finishing looking at multimedia production software, and that's going to finish us out for the year. Okay. Now, let's just review a little bit because this lesson seems to be taking forever. We looked before at 4 different kinds of software for producing multimedia. Do you remember what they were? Let's see if we can try and review. We looked at 4. There was a certain order to them, if you remember that. We'll get to that in a second. What was the first kind that we looked at? The first. Good. And so these were sort of the kinds of pieces of software that are very broad in their design. They're able to do lots and lots of things, kind of like a Swiss Army knife of multimedia software. They do a lot of things, but they can't necessarily do any of them particularly well. But they can do it to a sort of okay standard, right? What was next after that? Authoring packages, right? So we're looking at, hence the name, things that people who are, actual authors of specific kinds of data, like say, recording artists or, desktop publishing, magazines, that kind of thing. People who want a bit more of a professional quality to things, right? They'll use something which is more specific, but more expensive and slower, a bit more difficult to use, okay? What was after that? What was the next step up? Anyone? Yeah, thank you. So the whole idea here is we want to have even more control and even more flexibility to sort of muck around with the code that makes up the multimedia we're looking at. But the whole idea of this software is you don't have to yourself directly muck around with the code. It'll sort of hold your hand and guide you and semi-automatically do it for you. Okay? And then, of course, the last one, the most complex, was a programming language. And I'm actually going to show you a really amazing example of one that I found today, actually, this morning, which enables people to have the utmost control over something. They're not having to deal with what someone else allows them to do or the templates that someone else has made. You're just doing it for yourself from scratch. But for that reason, it's quite complex. Often you need people who are specifically skilled at doing this kind of thing. And we said, as you progress down, right, as you go from 1 through to 4, you're increasing in 4 different ways. Do you remember what the ways were? I tried to make them all start with the letter C, but it didn't quite work. We said we're increasing in cost. Everything gets more expensive as you go further down. We're increasing in control. As you go from up here, you're sort of limited. You're like, oh, you can only use these fonts, or the fonts that you've got, you can only adjust in certain ways. You get more and more control as you get further down. You're like, I can make my own font. I can make a whole new thing, right? Cost control, complexity. As you look at these kinds of things, it's a lot trickier, and the machines and multimedia that you build will be far more composed of many pieces, and there'll be systems, whereas these are quite simple. And lastly, we said, and I'll remind you of this word because it's an important one, we increase in terms of abstraction. So up the top here, these kinds of tools are what we call Wysiwyg, right? What you see is what you get. What you're working on literally looks like what you're going to end up producing. Whereas when you look at this, well, I'll just show you an example now. If we... Ooh, where is it? That's interesting. There we go. I found it. Okay, so... We're looking at here the programming language that was used to build just this web page that you're looking at, which is multimedia, by the way. There's multimedia-ness, right? And you look at this and you think, whoa, that's really abstract. This looks nothing like, it doesn't even look like English, actually, some of it. Like, what is this business, okay? So, very abstract, very difficult to understand, right? And it gets increasingly abstract as you go further down, okay? Now, we said that these were 4 kinds of multimedia production software, okay? But now coming back to, let's get rid of that. This third task here, let's think this through. Explain how advances in, here are the key words, miniaturization and communications technologies. How have those advances opened up new categories of multimedia production and editing software? Okay. I know that was a bit of a mouthful, but let's just take it one piece at a time. Miniaturization. What does that refer to? Making something smaller, right? Making something smaller. So, when it comes to miniature, wait, hold on, I got it wrong. The A's there. This is such a hard word to spell. Anyway, you get the idea. Making things smaller. What examples do you think of in terms of multimedia that has gotten smaller over the last few years? What do you reckon? Multimedia. Yeah, good, okay. Any kind of technology, right, to do with creating images or sound or audio, sorry, or video, it's all getting smaller. So, the collecting hardware for this, but also the processing power to be able to produce and edit and process multimedia, that's what we're interested in today, right, is also getting smaller, right? So, way to interrupt my video, thanks. Okay, your turns. All of these things are getting smaller, okay, and more accessible and cheaper and all that kind of thing. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, it opens up a whole new category of software. Come back to this idea here, right? All these kinds of software, what kinds of devices do they run on? Word, Premiere, Photoshop, all these kinds of examples here, Dreamweaver, right? What do they run on? They generally run on desktop computers, right? Or laptops, if you like, same kind of category, right? So they're running on full-fledged machines, but now you've got amazingly powerful processors that exist and function within really small form factors, right? So I guess we would say things like tablets, smartphones. Okay. So we were talking about desktop software yesterday, right? But all of these, I guess we would lump them under the category of mobile software. Mobile software. Okay, does this make sense? So you got a whole new category of things like, say, iMovie, right? Right on your phone, you can put together and edit a video. You can make it quite nice looking, actually. You can make all kinds of adjustments to it right on your phone, okay, or your iPod, actually. So mobile software, right? Can you see what we're getting at here? Advances in miniaturization have made mobile software actually a legitimate multimedia production platform, okay? All right, now what about this? Communications technologies. The internet's getting faster, right? And the internet's getting everywhere. So how's that affected multimedia production and editing software? I think one person yesterday mentioned that Google Sites was one kind of multimedia production software, right? You can edit and make websites. But the funny thing about Google Sites, right, is where is Google Sites installed? Where's the actual program, the software? Where is it installed? It's not on your computer, and it's not even on a phone or a tablet. You can get to it on any device because it's installed on Google's servers, right? In the same way, if any of you have a YouTube account, right, you'll know that when you upload your video there, it's not just stuck, right, or Vimeo, or any other kind of service, right? It's not just there in a sort of immutable, unchangeable form. You can edit it. You can adjust lighting. You can even add what's that I'm looking for? Stability control. Like if your hands are really shaky, right? You upload your video and YouTube will say, hey, we noticed your video is really shaky. Do you want us to stabilize it? Now, what's all this? This is multimedia editing that's happening. Where's it happening? It's not on your desktop. It's not on the mobile device itself. We would call all of this cloud software. It's all actually happening on someone else's computer, on someone else's device, on another server that we're reaching through the internet. Okay? And all of this is practical because now internet bandwidth has advanced and is so powerful and broad now that you can actually practically do stuff, edit things over the internet. That's quite amazing. It wasn't practical at all before. Okay? So that's what I mean by it's opened up new categories, right? The categories we looked at before, they're just one way of thinking about things. As you get your computer out and you increase in cost, control, complexity, and abstraction, right? But there's this whole new sort of world that's opening up. It doesn't have quite the same functionality, right? You can't do everything on, say, Google Slides that you can do on Dreamweaver. You can't do everything on iMovie that you for iPhone that you can do on iMovie for Mac, for example. But you can do a lot of things, and in fact, some things you can do even better, like say sharing, right? That works really well on your phone. You can just send it straight off. Okay. So. That's what we mean by the different ways you can think about multimedia production software. So think of these two different ways of categorizing. Okay, one is all for the desktop kind of means, and the other one is what platform are you on? Are you on your desktop, or are you on a mobile device, or are you accessing services and software through the cloud? Okay.